Hey team, thank you all for coming. It's one of those days where just everything goes wrong and we fall behind schedule. So apologies for being late. Thank you so much for D&D Tesla, an American Beijing K8 and long-term holder, and Sean Donnelly and everybody for being here. Appreciate you all. And now I've got to juggle a couple of things. Yeah, stop that. Okay, so Bitcoin was down. Fell a lot. We covered that this morning in the Bitcoin Daily, but I'm going to talk about some of the other stuff going on this week. We've got a whole bunch of PPI and CPI data coming out of China, Germany, US Fed rate decision on Wednesday. We've got that Tesla annual meeting on Thursday. Votes need to be in by, I think, today or tomorrow. So hope everybody voted properly for what is the biggest crime of the century, perhaps. And it just shows you how things are just, everywhere I look, things are going in the wrong direction, and it gets me a little depressed. Anyway, good thing we're in the right assets, hopefully over time. We'll also talk about how it's possible this week a Fed rally could be ignited. But before we get to all that, we have a lot of other stuff to cover. We're going to talk about Bitcoin miners and NVIDIA versus Bitcoin and Tesla and EV penetration adoption, Mercedes versus Tesla, Ethereum, real-world assets, Solana, Bitcoin, crypto data. I mean, 50 nuggets. Let's go. Now, this is financial advice. And shout out to Big O, best in the game. Love all your videos and Patreon. Thank you so much, Big O, for being there. Really appreciate everybody in the community. Great group of people. Next, ugly news. We start with unlocks. These people say, why don't you own the Aptos and the Sui and the Sei and all these new things? Because they just rain down tokens. Aptos, Immutable 1 inch, Immutable X, Cyber, Stark, another one. Render's on this list, by the way, but Render has a tiny unlock of 0.2%. So when it's really small, like under 0.5%, I don't really care. It's not significant. But Cadena, I was surprised to see Cadena on the list. I'm surprised that they're still alive. I made a video mocking the chain when it was at $24.60 a couple of years ago. Anyway, Manta's there. NIM, ApeCoin is there every week. Arbitrum is there too. So just be careful. Watch for your unlocks. Now, this was a little bit of news I covered this morning, but in case you missed this morning's video, I thought it's worth mentioning twice on how, literally, if you are out there looking out for you and your family, you have to understand how things work. That's why I share this news. This is from Unusual Whales, and how the wealth over the past 4 years has grown by $37 trillion. But 54% of that 37 trillion flowed directly to the top 0.1%. Okay? So if you think the economy is fair and the world is fair, it's not. Those 133,000 people split 20 trillion. And that's about 150 million per household. And the rest, all right, the other 46% are shared across the 99.9%. And even the top 1% probably got more than half of that anyway. So just understand why we do this, why we are in this disruptive assets, because it's the only hope some people have. Now, bad news. That ugly news didn't last long, which is good. This is interesting as well. This is all this noise about the Fed rate cut. I mean, it's pretty clear that the Fed is looking for this miraculous rainbow 2% inflation, and they never get close, okay? And I always said, 40% of CPI is driven by the price of oil. The only way you take the price of oil down is you destroy the economy and everything else. But here was critical about this. A record 9.3 trillion in US federal debt will mature and must be refinanced at about a 4.5 or 5% rate in the next 12 months. Okay, that is absolutely monstrous. We are already spending nearly double the U.S. defense budget. One of the biggest U.S. budget items is now on interest. Double that is now paid in interest, which is completely bonkers. So they continue to explode deficits. The debt spiral is going out of control, and this is just ridiculous. This is why you do not want to be holding on to fiat, ladies and gentlemen. Every video, by there, is recapped by the team on Substack if you want the slides and everything else, and you can listen to them at the gym, whatever. There's a lot of material in every single video I do. So let's go. Good news time. Now, fear and greed is crazy high still at 74. Despite the dip we had in the actual market, people were quite concerned. But again, dips are opportunities. I wait for these moments and I get excited. And that's one of the reasons why I was a little bit delayed today, because Schwab was down and Coinbase was down at the same time. So it delayed some of my purchases. Anyhow, Bitcoin's now 67,630. It is up exactly $1,600 off the bottom a couple hours ago. That's how fast this thing moves. And I said it till I'm blue in the face. The whales and the market makers hunt the leverage longs. If you are doing a leverage long position, make sure you have a lot of mattress. Thank you, Moto89, for coming. I mean, a lot of mattress. So I do perps on Solana. My liquidation level is in double digits. So if Solana's trading at 130, 140, I put my liquidation level down to like $90 because I don't ever want to throw money away. All right. So just remember that they're going to come for you if you expose yourself. And people think, oh, I'll do 100x leverage. But remember, a 1% dip, boom, you're wiped out. Now, the crypto market over the last 7 days, now this has changed since I put this together about an hour ago. Market's already rebounding pretty fast. But in terms of Bitcoin, ETH lost a lot. That day in the sunshine for the ETH ETF didn't last very long, and it fell 7.29% last week, as the whole market did too. But that's the big one. TON is up, Tron is up, Pepe is up. Stacks is up. Stacks I deem as the most overvalued crypto out there on a per user basis, which is crazy. In dollar terms, Bitcoin 67,389. Now, as we speak, it's 67,700. So it's gone up $300, which actually takes us to break even so far by my calculations for the month of June. Not bad. ETH, Sol, etc. We covered that a lot. And this chart here will be revised. This should actually be real-time live. Will be 1%, not minus 1% for the month of June. So we're back to positive. So all things are not as bad as people feel. Thank you, Dr. Sauce, for coming. And again, sorry, everybody. I've got a camera issue today. My face is not there, but I promise you I am here live. This is not AI just yet. Now, digital asset flows. We knew it would be a huge week last week. We saw $1.2 billion go into the ETFs, which is crazy. A lot of it is represented in this big blue candle here. Was that the fourth best day in the last half a year? Not bad. And that brings now 5 weeks of inflows. We'll see if that can continue as well. Massive volumes, big changes, etc. Let's break it down to the flows by asset. Last week, I remember this specifically. I said ETH will be up big this week. This report, this flow by assets, is a weekly report. People get confused. It's not this week. It's from data available as of June 8th for the previous week. Okay, and we knew with the ETF news for Ethereum that came out on Monday or Tuesday morning, I can't recall exactly, last week, it would be a big week, and 70 million came in. This week, obviously, start off week, and it's down hard. Solana up at 700,000, not much. Short Bitcoin down, that's actually normally bullish. And people are still buying XRP. I don't know. There's some things I just don't figure out in this world today. And I've given up trying to understand how this world works. Anywho, Bitcoin season is at 20. This is Super Soul Man. Good to see you, buddy. 20 is the lowest we have seen since November last year. So that means Bitcoin is smashing the top 50 cryptos. Let's break those down. This is a very telling chart. Arbitrum, Optimism, Tau, Matic. These are so predictable when you see the tokenomics. They can never do well, you know? Don't touch that stuff. And don't listen to pumpers. Bitcoin and Sol almost matched. It's down 7% for the last 90 days. But TON and Ondo are the top two performers. Pepe number 3. XMR, Monero back up 15% over the last 90 days. The X's, the XRPs, and the Stellars and the Moneros were doing very badly all year. Now only 2 of them are doing badly because Monero is up a little bit. That means people are seeking out privacy. Now, this is a cool little chart I thought I'd share from the Altcoin Investor. And it talks about how crypto is the best performing asset in history. Just holding the top 3 major cryptos, Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, you're generating 150% plus return per year if you held them since inception. Okay? That shows you the power of holding. This is 10 times more than Warren Buffett, what he gets in a return. The return so far at CAGR since inception for Solana is 197%, Ethereum 149%, and Bitcoin 139%. Again, smaller assets do better. Let's break down some on-chain data for all the top L1s, L2s. This one is interesting. I touched on it briefly yesterday on DCA because I thought it was interesting, and I will be reaching out to Mert to discuss it more. And we have had some internal conversations around this too. But it looks at weekly active developers based on GitHub activity for all the smart contract platforms. ETH number 1, Matic number 2, Polkadot number 3, Cosmos number 4, Arbitrum number 5, Solana number 6. But what's interesting about this too, actually Say has no activity. So maybe a lot of the activity is actually hidden because Mert said he has more developments in his development shop called Helius than all of Polkadot together. Now, if you look at Polkadot here on the list, it's number 3. And they have a lot of activity, a lot of weekly active developers, over 600 of them. And that's pretty crazy to think. So I will discuss this with Mert and hopefully get back to you all and get to the bottom of this. Now, there is another train of thought that Mando brought up yesterday, that some of the developers, obviously all the developers on Solana are on Rust, some on C++, and they don't use things like GitHub because a lot of the code that they're writing is very proprietary. So anyway, I thought that was interesting to share. Now, daily active users by chain, also interesting. Binance has spiked quite a bit, up to 1 million daily active users. Solana at 1.7 million, Sui 741,000, ARB 600,000, Base 500,000. Bitcoin 406,000 has more daily active users than Ethereum at 375. I thought that was very interesting. Normally Ethereum is higher, but I know as well Ethereum has a lot of their activity now on layer 2s all across the board. Say network 3,000 daily active users. Polkadot 5,000. So this always gets me very stacks 10,000 daily active users. Cardano about 30,000. When you look at this and you compare it to this, and actually it could be an interesting ratio, the correlation between developer activity and daily active users, because Say has no daily active users and also no development, and it's pumped very hard. So do you want that to be in your wallet? I don't know. Polkadot, no active users, but a lot of activity. But then people say, oh, it's a layer 0, which we'll see. Anyway, that is the daily active users by chain. Fastest chain, Solana number 1, Sui number 2. A lot of people think Solana has hit a true TPS of 1,300. I will dig into that too. But again, Binance Smart Chain, 376 transactions per second. Polygon, 190. And all the way down the list. Thorchain, doing 2 transactions a second. Highest recorded real TPS. So again, as I say too, it's important to keep an eye on some of the new stuff. New stuff is better, cheaper, and faster. And that is the way of the world, period. And when you have something that's better, cheaper, and faster, well, this happens. The big 3, well, on Dex Volume, you can see here, for the 4th day in a row, Solana has beaten Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain handily. And that's important. But back to the black hole theory, nearly $45 million has been bridged from other blockchains to Solana, facilitated by dBridge Finance and Wormhole within the past week. Again, people are just porting their assets over through these bridging devices to, again, experience better, cheaper, faster, because it's easier, cleaner, nicer, more cost-effective to trade on Solana. And that's just what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we're going to talk about real-world assets. I will be doing a deep dive on RWA. Because this is OCTA, I don't have time to spend a lot of time on anything. No more than 60 seconds per topic. That's what I mean by KPM. But this is the sector performance over the last 30 days. Real-world assets is smoking it. And the question is, why? What's going on? We've been talking about RWA for a long time, but it was kind of in its infancy. But now it looks like the world is waking up. So a quick recap of asset and money representation. This is what the whole thing is about. Now, there's talk of BlackRock funding a new centralized exchange to compete with NASDAQ in Texas. I'm pretty sure it'll have some form of blockchain in it, maybe some form of tokenization, because there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, and I'm trying to get my handle on exactly what's going on. But if we look at the history of assets and money, this is why tokenization is so important. And I said years ago, in the future, everything will be tokenized, from maybe your rideshare vehicle to your house, to your holiday home, to your stocks, your crypto, everything will be tokenized. So in the past, we had the physical form, which is paper-based, physical venues, etc., finance. Then we had electronic form, digital money, electronic networks, keeping separate record keeping, kind of digital finance. All the Fed printing is no longer in dollars like it used to be in the physical form. They press a button and create another few $100 billion. And that's how that works. Otherwise, they'd waste so much paper because they're printing so fast. Now we're moving to a world of everything being tokenized, which means digitized and single network for both transfer of value and messaging. Self-executing composable services across the network happening at the speed of light. This is why the world is going in this direction, because it's better, cheaper, faster. I'm sure you pick up the theme here that I've been talking about for years. Now, real world assets, people think Ethereum is the RWA chain. Well, no, real world assets are coming to Solana fit, fast, and furious. You got all this stuff like Metaplex and Pith, Token 22 standards, Bridge Split, Cridex, Parcel, Homebase, Liquid Prop, Baxus, Collector, Maple, UXD, a lot of stablecoin action happening already. And this is coming. And now Solana is the chain that can do a lot of this very cheap and fast, because if you are moving a marketplace or a stock exchange to a tokenized blockchain basis, you can't wait 16 minutes for fulfillment verification. It has to be instantaneous, and it has to be able to handle a lot more than 15 or 20 or 200 transactions per second. This is why there's a lot of rumors going around, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, tokenized treasuries are also taking off too, of which Sol and ETH are the big players. And you can see here how just since kind of April 2024, they have just gone up and to the right, tripling in total value. Again, early days yet. This is the absolute infancy of tokenization we're watching right now. Now, rumors are flying around that a Sol ETF will be happening. And this is from Milky Way. What are the odds? And the question is, what's going on? Well, BlackRock know enough about crypto to be dangerous. And yes, there are many rumors circulating, and one notable one, especially a tweet from an account with about 230 followers, has sparked my interest. This is Bitcoin LFG. And remember, only ever follow people with blue check marks on Twitter. If you look up Bitcoin LFG, you will see hundreds of them. All right? They're all scammers. Look for the blue check mark. And even then, if it is a good account, they would have tens of thousands of followers. So watch everybody for scammers. Sorry to digress there for a second. But BlackRock, apparently, and I've heard this from multiple places, they are set to apply for a Sol ETF next month. And yes, Gary Gensler called Solana and all other crypto securities, but he also didn't say that ETH wasn't a security. And also we know that BlackRock get what they want. And that's just how things work. But the point is, BlackRock is aware that Ethereum has limitations preventing it from handling real-world assets at the same scale effectively. Transaction speed, finality time are significant drawbacks, making it very unsuitable for running a financial market that is tokenized, because they need scale and they need speed. And remember, if Solana did get an ETF, wow, being under $100 billion asset value, that would be huge. Now let's talk about liquidity, and I will do a deeper dive into RWA and what it means for tokens and what we can do, how we can expose ourselves, because I always say too, follow the money, and that's where the money is going, and that's where the performance is right now. Back to global liquidity. We are up $420 billion in global liquidity in just 10 days so far this month. Not bad. I'll take that as a win. Still have a long way to go to get to 100 trillion, but I believe we will get there this year pretty easily. And stock market over the last 7 days, a lot of green for both Apple and Microsoft. What's going on there? Amazon up 4%, Meta up 5%, Apple 6.5%. Look at this chart. It represents a lot of the technology stuff. NVIDIA up, TSM up, Broadcom up. I'm still not used to the AVGO ticker. BRCM is what I played with 25 years ago. Anywho, that is the market the last 7 days. Now, let's talk about Bitcoin miners first before we get into some other stocks. You can see here's a great chart from Sanjay. Thank you for sharing, from Bitcoin Magazine Pro. And it shows you how over the last month, okay, a couple of things. WAGMI, which is a basket of tokens, did better than many of the other names, but Iris Energy and Core Scientific smoked the space. Iris Energy continues its surge up 130% in the last 30 days. They beat their revenue forecast, earnings per share, and the surge is likely due to specific trading behavior I mentioned last week, huge options activity, including myself. I got into a very big synthetic long on Iris Energy, and I wonder, is that all me? I don't know. A whole bunch of options activity that drove this thing to the moon. But what else is happening in the miner space? And Core Scientific is a group called CoreWeave that have a whole bunch of H100s. They wanted to buy Core Scientific for their data center facilities. And that brings in the whole AI HPC M&A activity that's hitting the Bitcoin miners in a big way. By the way, you'll also notice that the FUD around, Bitcoin miners using too much energy, has died because AI uses a lot more. Anywho, miners are selling hand over fist, speaking of miners, and this is sign of miner capitulation. Yesterday, we saw the largest daily miner selling volume since late March, 1,200 Bitcoin, and sub-big mining companies have been selling portion of their reserves to buy new rigs and cover expenses, and because they're not making it happen, because the halving rewards are half. We're beginning to see the pain now of the post-halving impact kicking in and hurting the miners. And these are Bitcoin being sold OTC, not in exchanges. Very important. I've been talking a lot about OTC desks since last Friday. Now, back to Iris Energy. Guess what happened? Cantor Fitzgerald came out today. And they put a $23 price target on Cantor Fitzgerald. I bought Iris Energy last week in single digits. And I was triggered. People asked, why did you buy Iris? We're halfway through the bull market, as you say. It's like, well, my whole calculus and thesis changed around miners because of the Core Scientific M&A action from CoreWeave. And that unlocked for me a lot of value with miners that do HPC activity. And that triggered this. Now, over a week later, Cantor Fitzgerald is saying the same thing. And they put a very high price target. So you look at miner action today, mixed day for the miners, some down, including Bitcoin down a little bit. But Iris Energy popped 20%. Wolf also up 12.46%. I was actually considering buying Wolf last week as well, but there was some financial stuff that I did not like, so I did not buy. And then down the list, WAGMI, 4.72. WAGMI is, by the way, this, what line is that? The dark black line here on this chart too. I think WAGMI stands for we're going to make it. BitDeer, Marathon up a little bit, CleanSpark up a little bit, Riot up a little bit. Bitfarms is down 2.27 because they're trying to find a way to poison pill the aggressive Riot takeover. And that might explain some of that weakness there too. Now, speaking of OTC desks and drainage, this is Coinbase. The drainage continues. If you look at just the dark part of this, the light blue part is the amount that they have in Bitcoin custody at Coinbase, but the blue stuff is the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges. It is down. They had nearly 900,000 Bitcoin not too long ago. Now it's down to 270,000 Bitcoin left. There's a lot of people that have Bitcoin and they don't trust their self-custody. Therefore, they leave it on the exchange. But even with that, people have been selling slowly over time. And the amount that Coinbase now hold is very little. Speaking of Coinbase and centralized exchanges too, Robinhood in Europe Robinhood actually in the US, but for activities in Europe, they decided to buy Bitstamp. I thought this is a cool chart, which I think, going by the font, I think that's from ARK Invest. But it's a geographic comparison of web traffic share. And you can see here that Bitstamp actually is bigger than Coinbase in many countries, but places like Slovenia, Kazakhstan, New Caledonia, Serbia, etc. But they've been around for a long time, and the acquisition of Bitstamp will accelerate Robinhood's expansion in Europe, and it will bolster the UK brokerage and EU trading services. And it launched in the last few months. And this will also help them expand into Asia as well, and also give a lot more people access to crypto, which is a great win-win as far as I'm concerned. Now, this is another interesting chart too. A lot of people, and this is from Econometrics, and the reason I'm sharing this, it talks about NVIDIA and Bitcoin at the same time, and NVIDIA rushing to be the world's most valuable company very quickly. But people always say Bitcoin is cursed because now it's over $1 trillion market cap. It can't grow faster. I was like, oh, well, if that was the case, how come NVIDIA went from, a couple of $100 billion to nearly $3 trillion in a year? So the point is, yeah, having a $1 trillion market cap doesn't mean you're capped, because NVIDIA tripled its market cap in a very short amount of time. And it did more than that, 8x, 10x in a year and a half. So there's no such thing as diminishing returns. There are only assets with small potential markets. Bitcoin doesn't suffer this problem. NVIDIA doesn't suffer this problem. NVIDIA is bracing the AI revolution, building the picks and shovels, whereas Bitcoin is the life raft that the whole planet needs to get on. So per this logic, there's still a lot more upside for Bitcoin. Now, getting back to the big news yesterday, and I thought this was funny. And there's a lot of consternation about, ChatGPT, what are they doing, what model, they're integrating with Apple. How could this happen? So if you've been around, say, technology in Silicon Valley for a long time, you'll notice that Apple and Microsoft have always been mortal enemies. They hate each other. Now they're kind of partnering, because Apple merging together with Microsoft's ChatGPT today. This is for Mike Benz. These aren't my words, but he talks about it being a woke Death Star AI. Basically, it's like Coke and Pepsi merging to create an inescapable death drink. I thought that was a very good analogy, because if you use ChatGPT and you ask it certain questions, it is not truth-seeking. It tells you things that are just plain wrong. And that is the issue here. Now, and I know Apple is only using a ChatGPT model to build, hopefully, one day their own thing. And Apple do have an awful lot of data that they can feed it. And there's also talk that this data will not be going back to Microsoft. So we'll see how all this pans out. But the point is, I thought this was interesting. Are these the groups that are going to win the world? I think LLMs, it'll become a very competitive space. It'll become very commoditized, and the most truthful, best AI that has the most real-time information will win. And I'm not sure if this merger will help either. But it's good to see Apple trying to modernize itself after the string of issues they've had in the past too. Anyway, let's talk about Tesla for a second. Big day on Thursday with the shareholder meeting. Let's hope the comp plan is approved. Let's hope they can move to Texas to get to the land of the free. Anyhow, this was a cool chart I saw online. It compared, for years we spoke about ICE parity. There's no way an EV could ever become as cheap as a gasoline car or petrol car or diesel car or whatever. Well, not only is it now a lot cheaper, but it's an awful lot better. So if you take the best, one of the best sports cars in the world, AMG C43, by the way, those cars sound beautiful. I've driven an AMG 56, C56, and years ago that blew my head off, and it gave me whiplash. It was awesome, but I also burned through the tires very quickly, so you got to watch that too. But this AMG C43 will do 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.3 seconds. Top speed 250. and it burns about 9 liters per 100 kilometers. So 60 miles will cost you 16 euros, which is way north of 20 bucks. Cargo, 455 liters, and the price of the car is 76,000 euros, which I don't know what that is in dollars, about $95,000. Now, Tesla Model 3 Performance, and by the way, that's before you add any features, any premium vehicle features. Whereas Tesla Model 3 Performance comes loaded with everything. There are no features to buy. It just has everything out of the gate. It's got ventilated seats, heated seats. It's got a premium sound system that blows you away. And apparently, by the way, the Cybertruck has the best sound system of any car ever made. This Model 3 Performance blows away the Merc in speed, 3.1 seconds versus 4.3. Top speed blows it away. It costs a fraction of the cost to run. It's got a way bigger trunk, and it's a lot cheaper. And it drives itself. So ICE cars are literally dead. I will make that call right now today. All the EV companies need to do is build a car as good as a Tesla and then educate the populace. And then these ICE cars are going to really get hurt. I guarantee you over the next 6 years. So if you're thinking about spending $100,000 on a Merc, don't do it. Financial advice right there. And to show you how this is happening, we look at a place like Norway, etc. We know how far away they are with embracing EVs. But now China, EV penetration has just hit 47% in May 2024. Look at that chart so far in 2024. It's going vertical. Okay, soon it'll eclipse 50%. This is the S-curve. It doesn't look like much of an S-curve, but from 2021, it was at 5%. Now it's nearly 50%. And that's in 3 years and change. Big changes here. So when companies like Volkswagen and others start saying they're going to, or GM, they're going to double down on building gasoline engines, they've completely lost the plot. It's that simple. And in terms of Tesla in China, they had a very strong recovery in May. China reported 55,215 Tesla sales and pretty good market share for the month of May. And what else? 72% of the sales were Model Y, 28% Model 3, which is really ramping up, which is great. And that's the fourth best second month of the quarter ever and up 83%. So Tesla is recovering in China. And China went through a mini economic slump, but they're coming out of it right now as well. It looks like Tesla will ramp back up as all around the world for the rest of the year. 4680, the new battery technology. The ramp is in October 2023. They hit their 20 millionth battery. Now they're up to 50 million batteries. So now they have enough 4680s to continue scaling the Cybertruck production, which is also, by my calculations, they've made 16,000 of them already. And they've also outsold the Rivian R1T or the Ford F-150 or both. I'm not sure. But either way, they're smoking the incumbents for electric trucks. Now, let's talk about Fed rate cuts. I'm sorry this is going long. There's just so much stuff to cover. Fed rate cut odds. This is from Polymarket, which is super accurate. It's actually better, I believe. I've tested on some things better than the CME tool. But per this, if you add up all the odds, we could have a rate cut by September. Maybe July if all these 68 banks hit the wall, which is also very possible. A lot of US banks are on the brink of not making it because of the extended Fed. They're basically insolvent, but we haven't seen them hit the wall yet, but they will probably this year. When that happens, the Fed's going to have to do something radical. But they are currently torching the economy, commercial real estate, manufacturing, you name it. The question is, what's going to happen? What they talk about tomorrow will be very, very important as well. And shout out to Tom Lee from FS Insights, Fundstrat. These guys are great. He always talks about how over the last 5 of the last 6 post FOMC meetings, there has been a rally. Shout out to Josh as well for this chart. The question is, will a rally happen this time tomorrow? The answer is the odds are pretty good. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Hope you like the content. That was a quick Octa today. Wow, 50 nuggets on the nose. Thank you all for coming, and I'll catch you all tomorrow morning. Sorry again for being delayed. Thank you, Sean, for coming, and Team Tesla for being here. See you later. Bye-bye.